been through the pain of colonialism, and today we're going through colonialism, neo-colonialism, in the sense that what I'm trying to say is that there was a time when we saw the white man, our colonial powers, as our enemies. But I think, no, not that I think, something that is worse than an enemy is a traitor.
Yep.
Yes. And when we won our freedom, some of our countries were led by some of the most noble nationalists, of our time. But at the same time, with the passage of time, some of them became treacherous and rather betrayed our aspirations. In effect, what I'm trying to say is that as bad as an enemy can be, I think something worse than an enemy is a traitor. We've ended up evolving in the process of trying to modernize. We've ended up being westernized to the point where, as I sit here before you, when I wanted to even name my children African names, heroic names, I'm a Catholic. The Catholic Church, or that character, back at home, said, no, I cannot. They'll have to be Catholic names. I mean, those Catholic names are European names.
I'm so glad this man speaking, his name is Jerry Rawling. He's the former president of Ghana in West Africa. Of course, speaking about colonialism and the colonization of Africa. Well, of course, it looks like he has to change his own name, right? Not just his son's name. But anyway, I'm not going to deflect on his name. But I understand his pain. And this is one of the programs that I have started, and I did a few episodes, and I will continue to bring more episodes throughout the year. And the program is called Decolonization of Africa, and I'm addressing issue exactly what he's talking about. I've recorded a video on that issue, but I don't think I've uploaded it yet. Now, how come an African man in Africa will give birth to a child in Africa and name the child Elizabeth Johnson? How come Africans are so proud and so arrogant and they will boast and say, I speak the Queen's English? When last you heard the Queen boasting about speaking your Yoruba, your Basa, your whatever language you speak, Swahili? When last you heard the Queen with such proud and arrogance boasting that I speak Yoruba? But we so arrogantly and boastfully and proudly say that, and we're really saying that to really demean and humiliate and to put each other down. In other words, look, I'm so intelligent, I'm so smart, I'm so westernized, I speak the Queen's English. When you don't even realize you're even exposing your ignorance, you're even exposing and telling the world that you are still colonized by your mind. That very statement is telling the world that you are still colonized, but you think you are insulting your brother when you're really exposing and insulting your own intelligence and your own ignorance and your own colonial mindset. I speak the Queen's English. Have you ever heard a European person in Europe gave birth to a child, a white person gave birth to a child in Europe or America and gave them Oluwasegun or Deconti or T Compla? Those are African names if you're not familiar with it. Hello, Africa. There's a new breed and a new generation of Africans, and we're rising up. And we are taking no nonsense. We are taking no nonsense. When God begins to raise up his true leadership and leaders in Africa, we will rule the continent like Psalm 2, what it says. We will rule it with an iron fist against the enemies of Africa. But not an iron fist against each other. An iron fist. And we'll shatter them to pieces like pottery. I mean, them. Who are them? Those who are held bound in destabilizing and colonizing Africa and keeping her in bondage and poverty for generation on end. The time has come. There's a new breed of leadership rising in Africa, and we're going to take no nonsense. You cross our path, it's on. Bring it.
Back at home, said, no, I cannot. They'll have to be Catholic names. I mean, those Catholic names are European names. I went through an argument with this priest, and I said, Listen, I have a right to my identity. Don't take away my identity. Okay? I mean, Christianize me if you may, but don't Westernize me. There were times, my wife and I is a great graphic artist. We made some beautiful Christmas cards that depicted Christmas in an African setting. And the Christmas cards sold so well, even with Catholic nuns, white Catholic nuns. We wanted to secure the patent. I went to an office, the Registrar General's office, to secure the patent. Can you believe that this fellow African, Registrar General, looking at my black personality, black face, told me that, no, I cannot. This was long after independence, and that it's going to take about 3 years. I said, why 3 years? He said, it'll have to go to England. It will go to England, and it might take about 3 years before I'm granted the right to that patent or whatever it is that register. In other words, in effect, what I'm trying to say is that, so I have no right to even my creativity. I create my own, you take it away from me, and you have to send it to the colonial power. 3 years later, when they have reproduced it, and I have no more right to it. So as an African, when you're talking about democracy, etc., let's put it aside. Let me bring you to the current modern situation.
Can you hear this madness? Are you telling me there's no patent office in Africa, Ghana, Liberia? After this video, I have to go do my research, because if there's no patent office in Africa, I'm going to open one. In Liberia, it's going to be the patent office for all of Africa. But can you imagine? Listen to his logic, and it makes so much sense. That I don't even have the right as an African. I produce a product, my creative right. I have to send that application for patent to England. I'm an African in Africa. So in other words, the colonial master have to approve of your product that is worthy by their standards of creative work. When their standards and the culture completely different than my own, but I still have to live up to their standards of what is called creativity, original, creative, authentic African work. They're going to decide. Are you guys getting this logic? Are you getting something? Hello, warriors. Common Africans, common Americans, and I mean American, African, black, white, across the board. This injustice has gone on for too long, and we can no longer be quiet and silent and allow it to continue on our watch, on our shift. We are crying for justice and peace for humanity across the globe. This is not about black or white, but Africa has suffered for too long, and we have been quiet for too long. We are rising up, and we are speaking up. It's time for a showdown. You imagine you in America, you have an idea for a product that you want to patent, and you have to send that patent to Africa, and you have to wait for 3 years for the Africans to approve your patent before you can get it. And within that 3 years, they may have even stolen your ideas and reproduce it on their market and sell it back to you in the continent for arm and the legs. So that leads me to think many of the so-called inventions that's all over the Western world, who is to say that those patents were not sent from Africa to be approved in Europe? And since it takes 3 years, they have stolen those ideas. And by the time the patent get back to you, they already done reproduce it 100 times over. Who knows that? There's so much wickedness, injustices, racism, evil, and corruption that have plagued the continent of Africa, not only from within by our leaders, but also from without by the colonial masters and their children who wants to continue to keep colonizing us. It's not going to happen. This generation of Africans we're not taking it laying down or sitting down. Our parents and our grandparents took nonsense from you guys, you colonial masters. We're not going to take it. So either you pack your bags and leave Africa, take your hands out of Africa's cookies jar, and the money, the resources, and the artifacts you have stolen from us, we want it back with interest compounded or its own. Watch.
In other words, in effect, what I'm trying to say is that, so I have no right to even my creativity. I create my own, You take it away from me and you have to send it to the colonial power.
Yep.
3 years later, when they have reproduced it, and I have no more right to it. So as an African, when you're talking about democracy, etc., let's put it aside. Let me bring you to the current modern situation. We end up with injustice. We end up with corruption. We end up with poverty. We end up with the worst possible things. We end up with the image. I don't have to tell you the image that you have in Africa. I don't have to tell you. Please, I know the potential of humanity. So when you're talking about the effects of some of these things, sometimes the image that you have in Africa, I don't have to tell you. Please, I know the potential of humanity. So when you're talking about the effects of some of these things, sometimes, these superpowers must learn to accommodate and to live and to accept patriotic leadership, patriotic citizens. Too often, they're happier with people who are not patriots. But if the media, especially in America, for instance, could give you both sides of the story as pertains to foreign policies and foreign actions, you will bring so much pressure to bear, because you still live in a world with the capacity and the ability to be able to influence your presidents. You can impeach your presidents like in America. So you as a people still have power, unlike us. In Africa, they disempower. Let me just say something. I have a little theory that the world is manipulated. I may be wrong, but the world is manipulated by the multinational corporations, the media, some parts of the media, and the intelligence apparatus. They work as a triumvirate, and they are neatly sandwiched like the ham, like your tomato, whatever it is. They're neatly sandwiched in between the governed people, the governed ordinary people, and the governors. That is where the manipulation takes place. And there is a symbiotic relationship between the triumvirate and, sometimes at this level, the triumvirate and, sometimes at this level. And if we do not make every possible attempt to return morality, when we're talking about the immorality of international politics, the immorality in business ethics is also percolating downwards, and the criminal, corrupt thing that goes on in my world is...
Notice he talk about patriotism, something which many Africans lack. Many Africans will lack something called patriotism. We don't have it. Whether in Africa, or especially, don't count even those who have had the privilege to leave the continent and be living in the West. Forget about them. Once they leave Africa, they, as far as they're concerned, they have left that hellhole, or as crap hole continent. They have left it. They're great. They're glad they're out of there, and they don't even plan to go back. Whether to invest, whether to visit, whether to do business. They don't even care if they send a few dollars here and there to help their family. They are done. As if they have written Africa off. Well, you're going to be surprised. Some of us, we are patriotic. I don't even know how you can be born in the country. Especially, let me talk about America a little bit. There are some Americans who are born in America that hate Donald Trump. And for that, they hate their country. There are some Africans who left Africa living in the West. They stay with the map. They love Africa. But you ask them to do something about Africa, to tell you, oh, Africa can wait. Oh, I don't have a burden from the Lord. Like, really? Come on, Africans. Let's not be hypocritical, okay? It's time for us to awaken and rise up. God made you to be born in that country or that continent for a reason. It's not for you to believe and come and be comfortable. And those who say those kind of statement, well, Africa can wait, or I need to have a burden to intercede for Africa. It's easy for you to say that because you live in a Western culture where you have electricity, running water, plumbing. You live in a comfortable environment. So you can say to Africa to wait. You can say that because the condition you're living in. But say that, go look at the condition of people you live in or where you left. And look in their face and tell them, well, you can wait. I need to have a burden if I can pray for God to help you. I mean, come on now. I know some of us will say those statements because we think we're so highly spiritual and we want to sound... You don't sound spiritual. But we need patriotic Africans. Number one, you love God. Number two, you love your people. Patriotic Americans are the one that kept this country, America, still standing up. They love God and they love their country. And to the point they're willing to die for it. When we begin to see a breed of Africans that will rise up, number one, love God and love the continent enough to die for it, you will see a shift.